Welcome to Hot Topics in International Trade, brought to you by Bromiller Law Group and Bromiller Consulting Group. Hi, this is Bob Brewer with Bromiller Law Group, Bromiller Consulting Group. Welcome to the podcast. With me today, once again, is Brandon French, who is now Senior Associate Attorney here at Bromiller Law. Congratulations, Brandon.
Appreciate that, Bob.
On that. As you may recall, you and I talked a lot about various things that were going on in trade. And one of the things I wanted to start with, because this is going to be a year in a review. Real quick, we'll bounce through some topics. I want you to give me an update on some things. But one of the most important things, and Brandon was in the trenches in the beginning of Section 301. Okay, I wanted to kind of hit on that first here a little bit, if you don't mind, because remember back in the day, you were actually in the trenches with Commerce trying to get these exclusions blessed.
Right.
In DC, we had a pretty good batting average, from what I recall.
Yeah, I mean that was a while ago. That's essentially when I started with the firm back in 2018, and obviously a big focus then was on getting these exclusions for companies, so they could avoid paying the 25%.
Yep.
Fast forward to 2023. Most importers, and our clients have been reaching out to us because obviously the deadline where the exclusions were going to expire again,
right,
and that keeps changing it feels like every other month there's like a new update. It was going to be September, and that's kind of where it was for like a 6-7 month period. So we had clients reaching out to us. What do we do? Is it going to be extended? And, and we're not in the USTR's office, so I don't really know what's going on, but I'm just kind of monitoring stuff. And then obviously, subsequently, all exclusions that were approved through September have now been approved through the end of 2023. So naturally, people are like, well, what about 2024?
Yep. What are we doing?
And obviously, right now, we don't really know much about that, but, it's something we're obviously monitoring really closely. And it's obviously really, really important to importers.
Right.
And also as it relates to Section 301, obviously the lawsuit, right? A lot of people
Oh, man, that was huge. Was it 5 days? We thought this deadline that we had originally gotten was the real thing. But where are we on that today with that litigation that was filed a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so in mid-2022 was kind of a big moment in the case where the court came back and originally said the USTR had the authority to implement the tariffs, but basically didn't do a good enough job explaining the rationale why they did it.
Yeah.
So it got sent back down, came back up to the court, and ultimately the court determined that the tariffs were justified. So where we're at today is there's an appeal going on, right? It's a big case. Right. Only the lead case is being appealed, while as the other ones are just kind of, the court just put those in just a holding pattern until the other ones are decided. So right now we're in the briefing stage where the appellant's working on putting together a brief. And where the court, once that's complete, I think the deadline's mid-December, or if there's an extension, early January 2024.
Yeah.
Then we would kind of see what would happen with the appeal. But, I could see this lasting at least another 6 months to a year, right? It's just, that's how litigation goes.
Now, it brings up to me, I don't know how closely you've been watching Xi Jinping and Biden who are meeting. I mean, to me, it almost seems like this was a Trump thing, obviously, the 301.
Right.
He said if he gets reelected, he's going to just bury China. But, back on a happier note, I think it would be great to extend an olive branch to China and get rid of the Section 301 tariffs, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean,
it's my opinion. But, hey, let's move on, because we got about 200 clients that you're having to keep updated on all of that on a weekly basis. But I want to also focus on, there's been so much turmoil in the world, obviously, one of which has been Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And just, I want to talk about that briefly, about the sanctions and how's that actually panning out.
Yeah, so, earlier in the year, we saw just the U.S. government blasting Russia, right? Sanctions on banks, sanctions on government officials, sanctions on anything that you can imagine. And we haven't heard much about it. Like, then there was a few month lull where you didn't hear much about it. And then I just saw recently again on, I think, November 2nd, just a few weeks ago, another 130 institutions, were sanctioned again. So I think it's something that the U.S. is definitely looking closely at. I thought what was interesting is I read an article last week, too, that said that although we've been blasting Russia with all these sanctions, the Russian economy has actually been growing. So I don't know how that works exactly. Yeah. Maybe it means they're not completely reliant on the U.S. That's what it probably means. Yeah. But it's just interesting and kind of speaks to the fact that, maybe there's more and more sanctions going to be coming.
Yeah, it's weird. I look at the geopolitics, all the positioning now with various countries is to pick a side.
Right.
And see, I never thought I'd see the day where, Putin would actually be shaking hands with Kim Jong-un and getting military equipment.
Right.
That's great. Will it work?
Who knows?
All right. Well, I'm going to come back to you probably in a podcast in about another couple of months. I want to talk about that a little bit more in depth with Russia. We, kids out there, we try to keep these about 15 minutes. So. And I want also you to get involved with, this has been huge. Adrian and I did a podcast about a week and a half ago on forced labor.
Yeah.
I know you wanted to add a couple of tidbits here, but man, this isn't going away anytime soon. This forced labor, they're really cracking down.
Yeah, and I just think over the last 2 years, you've seen what the government, how important it is for them that we're not, getting our economy is not kind of benefiting from forced labor from China. Yeah. And kind of from our perspective as a law firm, it's been interesting for us how many companies have been reaching out and they're like, asking us to review their supply chain. They have no idea because, right. Most companies are getting their things from China, but they don't think twice because everybody's getting their things from China. But now that there's kind of this increased, enforcement effort on avoiding forced labor, it's becoming a much bigger deal and something that companies need to be aware of when they're putting together their supply chain, when they're buying, where are they going to buy their merchandise from. So I would just, recommend taking a look at that on the front end rather than, once you're kind of in the supply chain, you're ordering things and all of a sudden here comes customs knocking on your door. That's not what you want. So just keep that in mind moving forward because it is definitely a big area of enforcement right now.
WRO findings, we found a lot of that was just going with Malaysia. I look at it from the perspective of being incredibly difficult when it comes to looking at the supplier. Adrian and I were talking about that.
Yeah.
Now, there's software out there that can help you do that these days.
Right.
And that's getting more nimble. But in the meantime, this is not something that you want to ignore in any way, shape, or form, pulling product out of China.
Yeah.
So that's a big topic for me. Now you've written articles here at the firm on this as well, haven't you, in the past? And as far as I want to mention this, Brandon also wrote an article with Jennifer Horvath on, it was labeling, USA labeling.
Yeah.
And that won a Mondac Thought Leadership Award. Congratulations, Brandon.
Thank you.
Well, you think about it. I looked at it the other day. It was like this thing's been up out there on Mondac for like 90 days almost, and it's got 17,000 reads for you.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Saying. So I'm just want to let you know he's a good author. The webinar coming up though that you're going to do. This is kind of what the focus is of your webinar on December 12th. You're going to do kind of a recap, year in review. Now Brandon's doing this just so you know, with our partner in crime out there in San Francisco, George Tuttle.
Yeah.
Shout out to George, GO3, one of the masterminds. And you two are going to really go through this about an hour long on December 12th. So
yeah, that'll be good. I think it's December 11th.
It's 12th, I think.
Oh, cool. One of those days.
Yeah, one of those days.
We'll let you guys know, but it should be good. We'll go more in depth about kind of some of these topics that we're getting on now, but kind of just touching on just some of the main areas now. So definitely be worth signing up for. It'd be really informative, especially with George, being a part of it as well.
Okay. And then the last thing, what are some of the major changes with this modernized customs broker regulations thing?
Yeah, so I think that's also been something that's been going on, this year. They're trying to kind of finalize things in last year where, the old broker regulations were kind of antiquated, kind of, little too old school for how, business works in 2023. So I think there was an emphasis placed on making things maybe a little more electronic versus paper.
Right.
Kind of fix some of the permit issues, whereas certain brokers had to have district permits, kind of changed everything to a national permit. So that was interesting. Opened up more capabilities in the automated commercial environment, the ACE portal, which kind of just helps, that's an electronic system too, that kind of just helps push things along. And kind of also just, redefine broker responsibilities and kind of, things that they should be taking care of for the importer. So I just think, that's an interesting topic to because, a lot of importers rely on their brokers for a lot of things. Whether they should or not, that's a different question. But it's interesting that Customs kind of came out with this, information and new regulations that kind of guides brokers more. So maybe we can, help facilitate trade and better business practices moving forward.
Got it. All right. One of the things as we kind of wrap things up here for this little podcast, I want to mention, by the way, this man is a professional pickleball player. Now, he hurt his wrist. Is your wrist healing, mending?
It's getting there.
Getting there. So in the meantime, the Nationals were in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're now a commentator on the sidelines and coach, still staying in the thick of things. So that's pretty amazing, though.
Yeah.
How's it going with pickleball overall now?
No, it's pretty cool for anybody who follows it. Obviously, the national championships for the sport being moved to Dallas was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Obviously, living in Dallas, but sport's been just growing heavily. Couple tours out there, so many good players now. But it's kind of cool, and it's nice being able to work as an attorney during the day and play pickleball at night, so to speak. So I'm fortunate to be working at such a good firm that allows that to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah,
work-life balance, man. We're all about work-life balance. So.
But no, it's cool. It's sport's growing, and just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. But we're just being televised in case anybody out there wants to kind of catch some of this that's going on with these championships.
Yeah. So they actually a few weeks ago, they just launched what's called Pickleball TV. It's through Tennis Channel.
Okay.
So if you went to Tennis Channel today, even there's a tournament on right now. Scroll down, you could find right now singles, and yeah, it's a nationally televised as a channel you can get. And I actually did some commentating on Tennis Channel earlier in the year for that, and probably will do some more for this Tennis Channel sub moving forward.
What do you think, kids? He's got kind of an announcer's, that commentator voice.
Oh gosh, I'd rather play, but whatever you say.
No, I'm just saying, it's pretty good. Because I remember watching you play. I was in Daytona about 6-7 months ago. Now the men, you were up against the top team in the U.S. out of San Francisco, was it?
Yeah.
And you guys beat them. It was the women or the co-ed that lost. And
yeah, it was a good match. There's so many good players now that they're all kind of close matches. But that was fun. That was before the wrist injury days. But we're on the men's.
All right. So we'll see you playing again pretty soon.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for stopping by, Brandon.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the chat, man.
Thanks for having me.
See you soon.
All right, guys.
Relax. We've got you covered. Global trade compliance to us is just another day at the beach.